I'm here today joined by my fellow National Party members outside Páirtí in Rossmuck, County Galway. We're here to commemorate the 1916 Rising, which began on Easter Monday, April 24th. It was at this humble cottage at the base of the Rossmuck Peninsula in the remote Connemara landscape that Pearse would travel to during the summer, where he steeped himself in the native Irish-speaking culture that even over a century ago was on the decline in most parts of the country.
Sir, is Gaelach, an man na bhí a green lech mar, is nach virgur sin de aller, is sin na clíle berle fasta, ach feis go fóla hawn ang aski, ni varfi an stad se nach tamil, or chuk vi sprak reaching welev, is curfer or cat verla. Ik jern cha ni hoog verlachtwich, ik lochiel not marmer glanta, ach by de anim yil gil the Greek got linev, is the scale de Irish in Gaelic vlasta.
It is at this place that Pearse wrote many of his most well-known works. One of his final works, titled The Sovereign People, was published on the 31st of March 1916. Just a few short weeks later, Pearse would stand on the steps of the GPO and proclaim the independent Irish Republic, an act for which he knew he would be executed. In this work, Pearse explains the real meaning of independence, of national independence, and in particular national sovereignty and what it means. He stated that national sovereignty is both internal and external. It implies the sovereignty of the nation over all its parts, over all men and things within the nation, and it implies the sovereignty of the nation as against all other nations. Pearse's viewpoint is beginning to sound in line with the National Party's national idea, which the current Taoiseach roundly rejects as a backward-looking idea of Irish sovereignty. Pearse understood that the nation is a spiritual bond, but that nationhood also includes physical freedom and physical power in order to the maintenance of physical freedom. Essentially, the freedom to defend your freedom. He goes on to write, "This physical freedom is necessary to the healthy life and may even be necessary to the continued existence of the nation. Without it, the nation droops, withers, ultimately perhaps dies. Only a very steadfast nation, a nation of great spiritual and intellectual strength like Ireland, can live for more than a few generations in its absence, and without it, even so stubborn a nation as Ireland would doubtless ultimately perish."
We want recruits because we have undertaken a service which we believe to be of vital importance to our country, and because that service needs whatever there is of manly stuff in Ireland in order to its effective rendering. We want recruits because we have a standard to rally them to. It is not a new standard raised for the first time by the men of a new generation. It is an old standard, which has been borne by many generations of Irish men, which has gone into many battles, which has looked down upon much glory and upon much sorrow.
The people are being fooled into placing their faith in Sinn Féin, as if they would deliver anything other than the current Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael controlled demolition of Ireland. This is even less appealing than Redmond's Irish Parliamentary Party offering the people home rule. We still have our future decided for us in Brussels or in the political halls of Washington or London. The NGO class exists to stifle any and all opposition to our destruction. We are not allowed to notice the societal issues that are plaguing us, and certainly aren't allowed to speak up about it. The neo-ascendancy in Ireland believes we will all take this lying down and shut our mouths about it. The Gombian political class will continue facilitating our replacement, and the corporate media and RTE will keep forcing the narrative down our throats, no matter how many times it falls apart. So, is this it then? Is Ireland altogether lost? Are we finally defeated? It seems quite bleak at the best of times, I'll admit, though just as Pearse looked back in time a century to brave men and women who defiantly stood up for their rights, paying even with their lives, we must look back to them over a century ago and remember what Pearse said. They think that they have pacified Ireland. They think that they have purchased half of us and intimidated the other half. They think they've foreseen everything, that they have provided against everything, but the fools, the fools, the fools. They have left us our Fenian dead, and while Ireland holds these graves, Ireland unfree shall never be at peace.
It is with great honour that I'm speaking to you here today in remembrance of resurrection. It is here behind me that Pearse sowed the seed of maturity in the youth, a maturity that wasn't intended in reaching full ripeness in one generation, but after many generations.
There is no other standard in the world so august as a standard we bear. It is the only standard which the men of Ireland may bear without abandoning their ancient allegiance. Individual Irishmen have sometimes fought under other standards. Ireland as a whole has never fought under any other.
those very men drilled on these grounds, those very men had the spiritual and intellectual upbringing that made them the vanguard of the nation. These were the men who were neither bought over nor intimidated by the regime, a trait we must embody with every stride. Now and the time ahead, we must be prepared for what awaits us. As it is the strong mind which will consolidate our position rather than the strong hand. In this cat and mouse game of liberal democracy, the regime will use every weapon at its disposal to silence us. Psychological weapons at that. They will try and bribe you, intimidate you, ostracize you, but you must be steadfast in your beliefs. We are righteous in what we believe in as we profess the truth. We are the portion of the population that haven't been bought or intimidated. To push us down, they will try to ensure that our message will not get heard, but here we are together, relentless and never backing down.
We in the National Party believe in the Republic as declared in Easter week 1916. We believe the old truth, as Pearse put it, Ireland belongs to the Irish. Pearse said that our patriotism is measured not by the formula in which we declare it, but by the service which we render. We owe to our country all fealty, and she asks always for our service. And there are times when she asks of us not ordinary but some supreme service. There are those in every generation, those who shrink from the ultimate sacrifice. But there are in every generation those who make it with joy and laughter. And these are the salt of the generations, the heroes who stand midway between God and men. Had they not gone before, made their attempts and suffered the sorrow of their failures, we should long ago have lost the tradition of faith and service, having no memory in the heart nor any unaccomplished dream.
The pressure will rise and the pressure will try to crush. But where that pressure crushes, diamonds are formed. That small glint of hope is formed in an impossible situation, which creates a miraculous end result.
We want recruits because we have a faith to give them and a hope with which to inspire them. They are a faith and a hope which have been handed down from generation to generation of Irish men and women unto this last. The faith is that Ireland is one, that Ireland is inviolate, that Ireland is worthy of all love and all homage and all service that may lawfully be paid to any earthly thing. And the hope is that Ireland may be free. In a human sense, we have no desire, no ambition, but the integrity, the honour and the freedom of our native land.
The National Party also measure our patriotism in the service we render. We are the torchbearers of the old flame of nationalism which can never be extinguished. We do not care what the NGOs have to say about us. We don't care what lies the press invents this week to demonise us. Nor do we care about the regime-backed thugs who feebly try to disrupt our meetings and our campaigning, failing miserably every time. We are not afraid to stand up and represent you, the Irish nation. Pearse too faced jeers and insults from his fellow countrymen who had no understanding or appreciation of what he was striving towards. Pearse and his fellow signatories willingly gave up their lives in pursuit of those aims. They faced a hero's death at the barrel of a gun, that one day we might look to them for inspiration. In 2022, all we need to do is get involved locally and get active in the political process of this country.
Prior to the resurrection of Christ, there was hardships, self-sacrifice, struggle, there was pain. But what followed was eternal light and ascendancy. This is echoed here when Pearse strove to arise the nation to glory in 1916, which at first seemed like a failure. But it succeeded in winning the hearts and minds of the race. A struggle in which those leaders were immortalized but did not live to obtain the fruit it bore. Rather handed it to us to carry on the unfinished intergenerational struggle. The pressure we face today from encroaching regime authority will make us better men. I have no doubt about that. It will bring about the cream of the crop in which we will secure the manhood of our nation and by default the glory of our race. Islin Tauchi, Garmila Magov.
The nation is once again rising up out of defeat and disgrace, and a new generation of Irish men and Irish women are asserting their right to the ownership of Ireland and to the unfettered control of Irish destinies. Get active with your local common. Bigi Lynn. Gormagat, Agus Yesharai.